What's going on, everybody? Non here, and as promised, this is going to be a Magic the Gathering video, and I think Hasbro's about to blow themselves up again and blow Magic the Gathering up, and I'm gonna walk through why, specifically with Spider-Man. So I've done videos in the past on how they've changed their allocation from an order or their order process specifically for Final Fantasy. So, for those of you who don't know, they've tightened the print runs pretty significantly outside of play boxes for the last couple sets. The performance of the collector boxes and the commander decks prior to reprints, we'll see what happens post reprint because we're still kind of in the middle of that, has actually performed quite well. So, up until, Innistrad Remastered, Aether Drift, a little bit of bump in the road. So, we'll see what happens long term. But going into Final Fantasy, they actually came out and distribution solicited orders 2 weeks ago, early last week, either way, for Final Fantasy when they hadn't solicited orders for Tarkir yet. So we effectively had to place order for Tarkir this week, and then the release is 3 weeks from now. And we'll know, I mean, we already know from one, maybe two distributors what we've gotten. So it's kind of like distribution knows because the product's already printed. They take the orders and then they allocate based on that. So the print run is what the print run is. So with Final Fantasy, they've required the orders in advance. So we won't know until the end of April what our allocation is going to be, and that effectively gives Hasbro more time to print the product to demand. So I think they've seen what happened with Fallout, with Lord of the Rings, and they're like, "That's my money. That's not your money." So this is a little bit more of a hybrid print to demand scenario, and quite honestly, having an extra 2 months to print, I don't think is a big deal. I don't think there's a whole heck of a lot of risk of Final Fantasy being massively overprinted and blowing up because the demand's going to be through the roof. People are going to have a certain price expectation. And, I think even if we get to a point where big stores start dumping product for liquidity, I think there's going to be enough demand there where it's going to get gobbled up. So moving on to Spider-Man. So with Spider-Man, what scares the absolute shit out of me is they opened orders for this yesterday. Spider-Man doesn't come out until September. So the end of Q3. So this gives us March, April, May, June, July. This gives them 7 months to print to demand a product that I don't know what it is. You don't know what it is. I saw pre-orders come out yesterday or today. Now, I don't have to have my official order in until May, but still, you're talking 4 months. So double the lead time plus this little stub period for Wizards to kind of figure out what demand is and print to it. So effectively, there's going to be a lot of product, probably more product than what was coming from the last couple sets for these university, I can't even talk, the Universe Beyond sets. Because look, there's going to be more demand, but this is a way for Wizards to gauge how much demand there is out here. So here's the problem. The problem is everybody knows when things get tight and there's money to be made, stores tend to overorder. They overorder knowing that they're not going to have to take delivery of everything, right? It's sort of kind of like, you buy call options on GameStop. You're never going to have to actually like buy, front the money to buy the stock. You can just sell the option beforehand. It's sort of kind of the same. But so now you have 6-7 months of people FOMOing and being able to increase orders for a product that's not coming out. So the risk of stores over ordering and then getting exactly what they asked for and having that oh shit moment, now I have to pay for it and take it, is extremely, extremely high. And what happens in that scenario, the smart stores, they just pre-sale everything they can as quickly as they can so they don't, they don't get dinged by their distributors. Now, you'll have some of the bad stores where they're like, well, we're just not going to take it. And you're stuck with it. And then that creates more downward pressure on the product. So I am scared to death about this Spider-Man release to the point where, I'm sure we'll buy enough for the store, but I'm not sure personally I'm going to order any of it because it's super, super risky. So to make things infinitely more complicated, I spent some time this morning looking at the Hasbro financial statements. So, Chris Cox, CEO, he has a massive incentive plan up to 500% of his base salary in stock options based on hitting certain metrics as a company. The stock compensation as a whole has declined the last 2 years. I think there was a year that was like 84 million, a year that was 72 million. Last year was like 50 million, 54 million. So 2024 was the lowest year for stock compensation in a long time. So, I think everybody at Hasbro is really, really greedy at this point. And look, they've taken the foot off the gas for about a year and a half now with product to build value. At some point, they're going to put they're going to put the pedal to the metal. They're going to put a ton of product and they're going to cash in and get paid. And this is why a collectible card game does not belong in a public entity, a public shell. So the Wizards of the Coast stock option plan, stock grant, whatever we call it, incentive compensation plan, is based on two metrics. So there is there's an EBITDA metric. So let me rephrase it, an earnings per share metric. So if they exceed a certain amount, they can get up to 150%, I think actually 200% of what their base bonus is. And then you have a second multiplier on top, which is it's effectively a total return. So total return on the share price, plus dividend, and the benchmark is the S&P 500. So look, we're 2+ months into the year. Hasbro stock's up 13%. The S&P 500 is at like 2%, whatever it is. So if I'm the management team and I see this opportunity, I'm going to print as much of this freaking product as I can because it's gonna pre-sell, it's gonna deliver, and I'm gonna get paid. And whatever the fallout is, no pun intended, in 2026, have at it. If I'm Chris Cox, I'm walking away with 10, 12 million bucks, and it's like, you got too many cards, F you. I don't care. And quite honestly, that's the mindset of people running public companies, because ultimately they live quarter to quarter or year to year. Generally quarter to quarter. And the underlying business for Hasbro is pretty crappy. It's Wizards Coast, and they've been prepping for 2 years now to open the floodgates and crush some numbers at some point in time, and they can't help themselves. They continue to blow themselves up. They just make poor decisions all around. So I think they're about to blow themselves up with Spider-Man. Obviously it's not going to come out for another 6.5 months. So we'll see how correct I am at that point in time. I've been fairly accurate so far, but I would be extremely careful. I think you're safe with Final Fantasy. You're not going to get wrecked pre-ordering at the current prices, even though I wouldn't buy them. They're astronomically high. But I think I think when it comes to Spider-Man, you could take a pretty significant haircut if you pre-order too early. You're putting out an interest-free loan to whoever you buy it from, and you're going to have to take the product because it's a virtual certainty that the price at release is going to be less than what you're going to pay for now. So anyway, guys, subscribe to the channel, like the video, join the Discord, and we'll be back later with some more Pokemon content.